Well, today we are down at Hamble Point Marina on a perfect day, and we've got a rather unusual boat to test. It is a VIGGO C8, Swedish built, and this is the only one in the UK, and I'll allude to that later. So let's step on board and take a look. Typically Swedish built, it's minimalist, super tough, but it's also got a touch of luxury and a lot of very practical features. Start with the coach roof. You've got these self-contained roof vents. They've got solar panels on the top, which runs a little fan inside and runs an LED light inside. So it will constantly keep the inside of this saloon freshly ventilated even when you're not on board, and it doesn't need any DC power to run it. Solar panels, both port and starboard, they run the system batteries and they keep them in tip-top shape. When you're running this boat at sea and you're trimming the engine to its maximum if you need to, they recommend, or they insist, that you fold up this panel. It stays up and that allows the engine to trim all the way up. This boat's not short of storage, either outside or inside the cabin. Each quarter has got a very substantial storage locker. In this case, it's got the outboard engine cover and loads of other cruising junk. Likewise on this side, same size, got a very nice, very substantially made bathing ladder on the port quarter. Going inside, what you've got is a bench seat. Now in its present state it's not a bench seat because it's got the opening opened up, hit like so. However, with these two folded up, the cushion across, you get a bed here or a bench seat going all the way across the back. Apparently you can specify this boat with an infill, and you can have a double bed here if you want to camp out overnight in the marina or anchor somewhere. You can have a double bed here. Got some very sensible shock absorbing X-Craft seats, very substantially made, and as we'll shortly find out, they probably take a lot of the beating out of driving hard and rough weather. Each seat has got a fold-up bolster like so. Once you've got the bolster up, you can stand. Now you wouldn't drive this boat standing, but you would helmet standing. So that's why you have the flip-up bolster. So you can look out, look across either side, across the beam and across the bow. Seated, these seats are great. They really hold you in position, they just hold you in place. No lateral movement, so you can really enjoy taking this boat to the limit in some rough seas. Something which is unusual in this type of boat is this anti-glare 3M reflective surface that they've put on most of the surfaces. It just takes all the glare out of what otherwise would be a very naked looking shiny aluminium boat. They've also put this padding all the way around, which is not only stops you from knocking your head and your elbows against hard metal, but apparently it just softens the sound effect of being inside an aluminium cabin. Lounging here is ideal at a leisurely pace, and I would say really with the proviso that you go for the optional back piece that you can have that fits here. Underneath is obviously storage, as you'd expect, and forward you've got a pretty substantial anchor locker. VIGGO C8. If you're a Scandinavian aluminium boat fan, you will probably see the similarity between this and the Anitech 747, a boat which some 3 or 4 years ago I had the privilege of testing. An impressive boat, aluminium built like this, very deep V hull, fully enclosed wheelhouse, but still a different boat. This is, I would say, an improvement on the Anitech 747. Quite simply, from my first impression point of view, all-round visibility is better. That's the first thing that strikes you. Of course, this is powered by Mercury's latest V8 300 horsepower Verado, which is a superbly responsive engine, which is evident at the moment you stick the throttle forward. It's off and the brace and shakes. It hit 30 knots and 8 seconds from a standing start, and it turns very, very, very quickly and very, very sure-footed. At the moment we're in pretty flat, calm water, but we have been out in some choppier conditions further out in the Solent past Cowshot, and this aluminium deep feed boat with a transom dead rise angle of 26 degrees has absolutely no problem cutting a sure-footed, solid, soft riding path. We're now running, we're going way past 46 knots in the blink of an eye, 47 knots. It is a 48 knot boat without any problems. And the thing is, you don't really feel it. Apart from the fact the hull's very soft riding, it's actually quite quiet, considering a lot of aluminium boats are quite noisy. And of course the beauty of an aluminium boat is they're what you call abuse-free. You can't really damage them unless you're complete and utter suicide pilot. They've just got no flex, they don't fracture. They're built to do exactly what a fast boat is meant to do. This engine has active trim. Mercury's clever, all thinking, all dancing system that automatically trims the outboard leg in accordance with your performance. Obviously it has to be set and calibrated from view, but once it's set up like this boat is, it's great. It's just point and shoot, easy. I'm not normally a fan of sitting down. It's obviously standing up in this boat is simply not an option for obvious reasons. The seats, well, they keep you where you need to be, firmly seated. What do I like about the helm position? Well, being I'm not a great fan of sitting, I think it's really, really good. Why do I think it's good? Well, the seats are fantastic. These X-Craft shock absorbing seats, they take out every bump, every knock. And if you are going to go hell for leather, as you can easily do in this boat, then it just takes that sort of abuse out of your spinal cord, which would otherwise be suffering. And these seats are just the right size to keep you in position so you don't tend to fall out of them. Footboard keeps your feet just where you need them. Visibility is good. The only thing I will say is before you do a sharp turn to port, you need to have a good look across your port quarter, because obviously this boat heels substantially in the tight turns that it's capable of producing. Well, now we've actually been out to sea in the C8. What's my take on it? Well, having driven the Anitech 747, which is a very similar boat made in Scandinavia, it's very similar in many ways. It's a bit more luxurious. It's got a very soft riding hull like the Anitech, but I'd say it actually goes 1 or 2 steps further. We've been out generally in some relatively calm weather, but we've also had a bit of chop, and we've also had some pretty serious red jet ferryways to jump through. So yeah, it's a great boat to drive. It's incredibly tight in the turns. It's got a very sharp deep V hull with a 26-degree transom dead rise, and that really comes out when you're tucking it into some tight turns, because she really heels beautifully and she just hangs on in the turns. Fitted with Mercury's active trim system, She's very easy to drive fast. You can just put the throttle forward, turn the wheel and off you go. You don't really need to think about it. It is a point and shoot sort of boat, but you can also override it should you need to. We found she ran at about 48.5 knots with 4 up, 30% fuel, very responsive boat, great fun to drive. Just as tough, predictable and sure-footed as you'd expect from this sort of deep feet aluminium Scandinavian boat.